Weather desk flood threat. A coastal storm brings heavy rain and big concerns to the New York region. I can hear Liz. Hi. I guess we're not in a delay.
Hi, Emily. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
What's up, Brian
down
Van de
there
Graaff?
in South Kakalaka?
Oh, it's good. It's good. We're finally cooling off. Right now on the National Weather Desk, flood threat. A coastal storm brings heavy rain and big concerns to the New York region. After Ian, a look at how one community is trying to rebuild 1 year after the devastating hurricane.
It's just so slow. I just want to get back to normal.
Federal shutdown. A closer look at how the stalemate in Washington could impact the government's weather operations. Frosty apples. How one cold night in May may have destroyed some farmers' crop.
This apple should be gigantic, and it's just tiny.
Acorn abundance. Why are there so many this year in some parts of the country?
We didn't see anything like this last fall.
Plus some amazing shots of the last supermoon of the year.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Meteorologist Emily Gracie. The remnants of Hurricane Ophelia could cause a big mess in the Northeast today, especially in New York City. Flood watches are posted for 25 million people, where up to 7 inches of rain could fall through tomorrow morning. Meteorologist Brian Van de Graaff is here with details. Morning, Brian.
Hey, good morning, Emily. Yeah, and that flood risk, I want to show you across the Northeast corridor. Look at these colors here. These indicate our areas of risk for flooding, and it's moderate. I mean, that's the third level, and that is second to highest from Bridgeport all the way out to East Hampton, down to New York City, even down to Middletown and Toms River. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the potential 2-3+ inches of rain. In fact, by the time we get into your Saturday morning, look at some of these tallies with New York City pushing 3 inches of rain, 3 inches down towards Middletown, near 2 in Bridgeport. This is a soaker of a system, and there are definitely going to be some flood concerns across portions of the Northeast.
All right, thanks, Brian. Travel advisory was posted for New York City ahead of the rain. In addition to flooded roads, there's concern the city's subway system will flood. That's been known to happen during large rainfalls such as Hurricane Ida in 2021 and Sandy back in 2012. The city's mass transit administration says they are ready.
But no matter what we do, there is going to be water in the subway system. The good news is the system is designed to take water and to pump it out in huge amounts.
Along the coast, the flooding threat may be exacerbated by the final supermoon of the year, which peaked earlier this morning. There are now 2 tropical storms active in the Atlantic Ocean. Rena became a tropical storm late yesterday morning. This morning, it has maximum sustained winds of 45 miles per hour. Its current path has it staying in the Atlantic, though, with no threat to land, so that's good news. Rena is competing with nearby tropical storm Philippe. There's been little movement with Philippe over the last 48 hours, and the latest computer model guidance indicates it will just meander for a few days out in the Atlantic before starting a northward track next week. Well, 1 year ago today, we were getting our first look at the damage caused by Hurricane Ian. The storm devastated Florida's southwest coast. A massive storm surge of 12 to 16 feet battered the coastline, destroying homes and lives. Samuel Martinez returned to the coastal community of Iona to see how the people there are trying to rebuild their lives.
Was there ever any hesitation on your part of staying here?
Not on my part.
That's Roger Hubbard, and this is what his house looks like now.
Well, we had the wind damage, but most of flood damage, okay? had water into the bottom of my windowsills right here.
He got it fixed and he moved back in within weeks of the storm, which made Hubbard one of the few people who lived here for most of the year. Turn this way, though.
What happened to you during the storm?
I was actually in the home with my mom.
And you'll see his neighbor, Eva Neocleus.
We thought that was the worst, but it's a year later and my home is still not being fixed.
She tells me she's been in a never-ending battle with her insurance and her mortgage companies.
I slept in the car for 2 months.
She's in FEMA housing now, but has no idea when she'll be able to come back home here. Cross over Davis Road, turn up a street, and you'll find this, a still empty shell of an apartment complex. And you may remember this video from that same street. A couple of feet of rushing water nearly swept a man out of his lanai. He says for 2 hours during Ian, he held onto a wall for his life. Today, that lanai looks like this. His apartment complex is dried out and fixed up, but everyone who lived here before Ian has now moved away. It's the movement and the noise outside his house that Hubbard tries to focus on these days. Eventually, a manufactured home will sit on top of these 8-foot pillars. Hubbard says it's a positive turn.
New construction coming in, the lots are being sold, people are renovating the houses, and we will be back to normal again.
Another city impacted by Hurricane Ian last September dedicated a special monument yesterday. Cape Coral unveiled a rock memorial to honor and remember the 150 people killed in the storm. By all indications, the federal government will shut down this weekend. Of course, that directly affects federal workers, services, and more. But here at the National Weather Desk, we wanted to know how it will impact the weather sections of the government.
So you just found out the government may shut down. But what does this mean for life-saving weather information that we depend on every day? Well, we dug into this lengthy Department of Commerce plan for shutdown to find out. Here's what you can expect. The National Weather Service would continue critical forecasts and warnings for the protection of life and property, but staffing would be at the lowest level necessary to do so. Weather forecast models would continue to run and weather data would continue to be collected. However, any development to those computer models may be put on hold, meaning no advancement to the science of weather forecasting. The Weather Prediction Center and local weather forecast offices would remain open 24/7, but with reduced staffing. Tours and outreach would cease, meaning you definitely won't see the NWS mascot Owlie hitting up any local schools. Emergency response meteorologists would continue to support FEMA in case of severe weather events. The Ocean Prediction Center, Aviation Weather Center, and Space Weather Prediction Center would operate with minimum staffing, providing only short-term forecasts, and non-critical research activities would stop. So, while you can still expect your phone to alert you during a tornado warning, longer-term weather modeling, climate, and ocean research would suffer major impacts from a government shutdown.
Well, several months of rain fell in under 24 hours in parts of Greece this week. Nearly a foot of rain fell in just 14 hours in the city of Volos. It's the second time this month the city has experienced a soaking like that. The average for all of September is just 1.5 inches. And keep in mind, the Volos region was devastated by wildfires over the summer. 80% of the livestock there were lost to the fires. Well, Switzerland's glaciers are shrinking at a mind-blowing rate. According to data from the Swiss Academy of the Sciences, the country's glaciers lost 4% of their volume this year, along with 6% last year. That means those glaciers lost as much ice over the last 2 years as they did in the 30 years from 1960 to 1990. The head of Switzerland's glacier monitoring network says glaciers have been losing mass for many decades, but the rapid melting is only possible with climate change. We are now in the middle of apple season, but in parts of New York, many orchards are having the worst season in memory. As meteorologist Sam Copeland explains, it's all because of one night in May when temperatures dip below freezing.
These trees we haven't even touched, and you can just see a few runty looking apples. I mean, this, I've never in my life seen an apple that looks like this, and they see like they're already half rotten. There's no seeds in there. This was one apple on a whole tree. This apple should be gigantic, and it's just tiny.
What complicated the growing season was the late winter and early spring warmth, which caused earlier blooms, making a late spring frost even more devastating.
I mean, hail, we can harvest apples, whatever's left, and most likely sell them for juice. Once an apple's marked, nobody wants to buy it. Once it's beat up looking, so it'll go for cider, apple juice, applesauce. We can make something on it. When it's frost, there's no money to be made, but then we still have to invest money into taking care of the orchard all year. This has absolutely been the worst year growing in my life.
Not all orchards had the same fate. Some were more fortunate than others if they had higher tech equipment to warm the crops, or if the temperature were just a couple degrees warmer.
Smoke from Canadian wildfires is once again visible in the skies over some U.S. states. Maine should have seen a bright sunny day, but it's seen overcast skies thanks to that smoke. The good news is the smoke is not impacting surface air quality because it's staying high in the sky. Well, you might not have been able to see parts of may not have been able to see it in parts of the Northeast because of all the smoke. Last night's supermoon was a great sight for many. A great shot here from Utah, and a time lapse of the supermoon is in the Iowa area. The supermoon was known as the corn moon or the harvest moon because it's during this time that many crops in the northern hemisphere are typically reaching their peak. Well, coming up on the National Weather Desk, California is no stranger to wildfires, but this season is different. We'll tell you where acorns are plentiful, why there are so many, and why they're vital to the environment. And we always like to see your weather content sent in to us through social media. We're on all your favorite platforms. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have some heavy rain on the way for parts of the Northeast today into tonight. New York, New Jersey, southern New England, some heavy downpours are expected. This is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The bulk of this rainfall starts to move out on Saturday. The trend will be for brighter skies, and then full sunshine returns in the Northeast on Sunday. Look at the temperatures on Sunday. They're warming back into the 70s. As far as rainfall amounts go, parts of New York, New Jersey, and southern New England will get 2 to 4 inches.
I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We are looking at the chance for a few showers, especially closer to New England. That's where we could have some areas of heavy rain. Otherwise, showers will be spotty for the rest of the region. This continues off and on into the afternoon, and then into the night, the rain gradually starts to taper. Looks much better for the rest of the weekend. This afternoon, our temperatures reach the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Then overnight, we cool down, falling to the 50s.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Looking at 86 in Nashville, 84 Atlanta, Birmingham coming in at 89 degrees, 83 Jacksonville, Tampa about 89 degrees, Charleston 83. Looks like the hot spot is along the Mississippi River there as we're seeing those temperatures in the 90s. Plenty of sunshine with high pressure over parts of Atlanta and South Carolina. Looks like there's just going to be some high thin clouds along the I-95 corridor, but a frontal boundary will continue to slow down over Florida, firing up showers and thunderstorms.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, this time of year, California is usually battling lots of wildfires. Meteorologist Ryan Mirando explains why this season is different.
Out on the West Coast right now, we're really in the heart of their wildfire season, which usually runs from June until October. So far this year, there's been about 5,600 fires covering 250,000 acres or so of burned land. That may sound like a lot, but compared to a 5-year average, that's sitting 750,000 acres below that. So it's been a pretty moderate and quiet year. Compare this, though, to 2020, 3 years ago, where it was a very active year. There were over 4 million acres burned, more than 15 times the amount we've seen so far this year. The reason why we're having so few fires out in California is because they've had an incredibly wet winter. In North California, along the coast, there's been up above 10 inches of rain by this date. In Southern California, there's been 15 inches above average, especially from Tropical Storm Hillary that pushed through. And even in the mountains coming off the winter season, the snowpack was almost 200% above the average. And all of this wet ground doesn't give a lot of fuel for these fires to be burning.
As fall settles into place, trees are losing their leaves. Acorns are falling too. Folklore says it could mean a bad winter. Whether that's true or not, Megan Dehaney wanted to learn why so many are dropping in western North Carolina.
The U.S. Forest Service studied acorn crop size here in WNC for 20 years. Katie Greenberg, research ecologist, says all that research showed yearly production of acorns is highly variable and largely unpredictable across our 5 main oak tree species. But crop size is critical for the wildlife who call WNC home.
A lot of important game species, turkey, grouse, deer, bear, squirrels, eat acorns, and of course that's important to hunters and to the population size of those game species. Acorns actually feed not the exact bottom of the food chain, but things like rodents, squirrels, mice, chipmunks, and of course those animals are prey to higher level predators. That's why acorns or oak trees are considered a keystone species in a sense. Keystone meaning they're fundamental to the very base of the ecology of the ecosystem.
More acorns mean more deer, and higher populations can influence forest structure and tree regeneration. Higher populations of deer and rodents also mean more things for ticks to live on, which can mean a higher prevalence of Lyme disease. Harsh winter? We shall see. But it turns out there are a lot of reasons to pay attention to that mighty little seed with a big impact.
All right, it's time for fall seasonal activities. In Door County, Wisconsin, they're celebrating a long-standing fixture that represents hope. Eric Peterson takes us to Eagle Bluff Lighthouse in Fish Creek, where the Door County Fall Lighthouse Festival kicks off today.
For 155 years, the beacon inside this tower has been on duty.
It is still a working lighthouse. It was built in 1868. And our light's never gone out since then.
Eagle Bluff Lighthouse site manager Wendy Wagner says the story of those who resided here is impressive.
We share the story of the Duclon family, the family that lived here the longest for 35 years in the late 1800s and cared for the site.
Wagner says Julia Davenport Duclon and William Duclon had 7 boys.
It's a grand house. There's a fancy parlor, a dining area, an upstairs, one room where all those boys slept, and a guest room up there, and an office that also doubles as a music room.
She says living here included keeping the beacon lit atop the 44-foot tower.
You can go up the tower when you visit. You just cannot go in the gallery area because that's still owned and operated by the Coast Guard. We're still a functioning lighthouse.
David Wright and his family are visiting from Iowa.
In the bad weather, it provides you guidance and gives you the ability to find out where you are. And I've been caught out in weather with fog and storms, and the lighthouse is that beacon of hope that helps guide you in. So for me, as a sailor, it's just a really important navigation tool.
Wendy Wagner says some signs of fall are in the air.
The colors up here are just starting. They're beautiful. A lot of oranges on the maples up here.
The autumn air is crisp, almost time to bring out that favorite sweater. It's also time to keep some tissues handy if fall allergies give you the blues. Meteorologist Alex Cordero has the fall allergy outlook.
Fall is officially here, and that also means it's the arrival of fall allergens. And pollen, types of pollens could be a big deal depending on if you suffer from them. So let's take a look at temperatures and precipitation anomalies and how they might actually help or hinder fall allergens, or again, pollens out over the lower 48. What you're looking at here is the temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center of the National Weather Service covering October, November, and December. And it looks to show that near average temperatures are likely for a good chunk of the country, while both coasts look to be likely above average in terms of temperatures. For the southeast in particular, not only does it look to be above average, but it also looks to be above average with precipitation as well. So it's more humid on top of it being more warm. That can help pollen to thrive, believe it or not. Warmer weather helps to allow that. In addition, with above average precipitation, those two factors may help to enhance the quote unquote allergy seasons, or when pollens such as ragweed are out and about, and that could obviously help to enhance or prolong the already agitating allergy season for allergy sufferers. Less frost, which is likely, considering you're going to likely have warmer than average temperatures, that means that you get more pollen days, and that means a longer pollen season.
Well, for many of us, we're just weeks away from a spectacular sight, a solar eclipse. But this eclipse is a bit different than others. It's something called an annular solar eclipse. Meteorologist Lindsay Storrs explains what makes it different.
A solar eclipse will occur on October 14th of this year, and it's going to move through the U.S., including right here in Utah. This eclipse is called an annular solar eclipse. So what is an annular solar eclipse and what makes it different from a total solar eclipse? It all has to do with the position of the moon in relation to the Earth. When the moon is closer to the Earth, it can completely block the face of the sun during an eclipse so that only the sun's cornea can be seen. But in an annular eclipse, the moon is farther away from Earth, which makes it appear smaller to us. So as it passes across the sun, it doesn't block out the entire face of the sun. It leaves the outer ring of it, which is sometimes called the Ring of Fire. So mark your calendars for October 14th so that you can see the Ring of Fire created by the annular solar eclipse.
Well, if you're going to be in Central Virginia this weekend, you might want to check out the Virginia 10-miler, a race that attracts people from all over the country. Meteorologist Will Stafford looks at if the weather will be a factor.
A big weekend here in Central Virginia. It's the 49th running of the Virginia 10-mile race. We've got people from all over the country coming in to compete in this race, as they do each and every year. And unlike the last couple of days when we've really been stuck in this cloudy pattern, we'll finally start to see the sunshine again just in time for race day. Temperature right around the start of the race back in the mid-50s. And with that added sunshine, we should finish out the race in the mid-60s.
We had to break a view over Oregon's Yamhill River and nearby fields.
Taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest here. We're going to be dealing with some rain across the northern plains, but look at all the 90s we've got. Sioux City, Lincoln, Des Moines, all getting into the 90s today. As we continue on into the day tomorrow, still featuring a lot of 90s across the south here. Some of that rain slowly going to be trying to drift its way towards the Great Lakes, but it does fizzle out some. So most of us are dry on Sunday with a lot of sunshine and temperatures still staying warm all across the Midwest.
Good Friday morning to you. Meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, and a lot of sunshine with a slight rain chance near the Texas Gulf Coast. Otherwise, temperatures running above normal. Head to your Saturday forecast, and again, most of the region is dry. Might get a shower or two down there in South Texas, 80s and 90s for highs. We look at the 6 to 10 day outlook on temperatures, normal to above normal, but we do get above normal from the Climate Prediction Center on rainfall.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the West. We still have some very summer-like temperatures in parts of the southern plains, while much cooler weather is starting to stretch from the Pacific Northwest down into parts of California and Nevada. That's exactly where a new low pressure is tracking in some heavy rain in parts of Oregon and California today. Also a little bit of snow for the Sierra Nevada. Very windy down towards the Four Corners. That's the scene from here.
watching the National Weather Desk.
Well, it's Friday, and meteorologist Katie Morgan has the weekend football forecast and how the weather will impact those college and pro games.
Filled with some great football matchups. Let's talk about how the weather will be for college and some of our pro teams. We'll start off with our college matchups of the week in Texas, Austin, that is. Kansas taking on the Texas Longhorns. Temperatures are going to be toasty, looking at the mid-90s with sunshine and a few clouds. A little breezy in Nebraska. That's where Michigan's taking on the Cornhuskers. Temperatures there are going to be on the warm side as well. But again, the wind may be a factor in the game. And then we head east, Notre Dame at Duke. Temperatures in the mid-70s. Looking good in Durham. As we take a look at Sunday forecasts here across the U.S., Commanders at the Eagles in Philadelphia. Temperatures right around 80 with sunshine. The good news is really don't see a lot of rain here for our games of the week. Dolphins at the Bills in Buffalo, New York. Temperatures will be right around 78 with sunshine. And the Cardinals at the 49ers in San Francisco with a temperature around 70.
Thanks for joining us. I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday morning.